Hey everybody, welcome back to the Infield Report. My name is Isaac. It's just going to be me for a little while. We're going to be trying something a little bit different for the next couple weeks. Maybe for the time being, we'll see how it goes. But for right now, it's just going to be me. But we're going to go over some of what happened this past weekend. We had some craziness going on. Not necessarily in the truck series that happened on Friday night, but we'll get into the craziness, madness that happened on Saturday. But we'll back up just a bit, and we'll start with the truck series at Martinsville. If you don't know about Martinsville already, it is a half-mile track. It's actually one of the shortest tracks on the schedule. It's right there with Bristol. They're both half-mile tracks. Very short, very flat as well. And in the background here, you'll see I was actually there at the track this weekend, and was able to feel it. It is very rough, and it's rough once you get up to the top, but like on the bottom part of it, it is pretty smooth. I don't want to say smooth, but there are areas, in the corners where it is a little smoother, so it doesn't wear out as much, but it is still pretty coarse for the most part. So tire wear was a thing. I know they had softer tires in the Cup Series. We'll get into that later, but just one of those tracks where you can slip and slide around, and you've got to be really careful with how much throttle you give it. Otherwise, you're going to be burning those rear tires off before you know it. So it's a very tricky track. Like I said, it's fairly flat, but it's really fun to watch. Like I said, the Truck Series, they had a lot of fun. There wasn't too many incidents. We did see Luke Baldwin, I believe it was in stage 2, actually hit the rumble strips and got in the corner way too deep going into turn 1, I believe it was. Got in way too deep, got on the rumble strips, and ended up spinning somebody out. I can't remember exactly who it was, but unfortunately caused an incident. But nothing was too terribly crazy. Nobody was. I don't think anybody was too ticked off after the race. Corey Heim swept both stages, but unfortunately didn't get the stage win. But as far as points go, I will say Corey Heim walked away with quite a bit. He walked away with 52 points on the day, both stage wins, a 6th place overall finish, and he also got the Xfinity fastest lap as well. So that did help him out. Like I said, unfortunately didn't get the race win. That went to Daniel Hemrick. Good to see him come back down, get a ride in the Truck Series, and actually get himself a win. So good to see that. Like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing what else he can do. I know that that team is always very strong, and I'd like to see what he does for the rest of the year. But like I said, we're only a handful of races in for the trucks, but anything can happen. But he's in the playoffs as of right now. And he had himself a pretty good race, and it was just, like I said, nothing too crazy. It was kind of by Martinsville standards, it was kind of a tame race. But like I said, you did have some incidents in there where some drivers got into each other, but no real animosity towards each other. It was Martinsville racing. There's not much you can really do about it, not much you can really say. But yeah, just a fun track. And just a pretty solid race on Friday night with the trucks. And then we got to Saturday with the Xfinity Series. And, there was some beating and banging going on pretty much from the jump. We were, like I said, it seemed like from lap 1 in the Xfinity Series at Martinsville, they were intent on going at it. I don't know what the deal was. I know Harrison Burton, by the end of the race, he ended up with no front bumper, and it was crazy. Everybody had donuts on their sides from the tires, and just everybody had crunched in side panels, and bumpers were a mess. Everything, you name it, it was chaos. Connor Zilisch won both stages, which, Zilisch can drive pretty much anything he wants to right now. But I mean, the kid, like I said, he's figuring something out. He's definitely trying to get himself acclimated, and I think he's doing a really good job of it. There's again just a maturity in him where I know he's starting to to get the hang of these different types of tracks. And he's proving that he's not just a road course ringer. He's actually he's got talent. He's got skill. It's just unfortunately, the luck of the draw. He ended up finishing 28th with a really, really bad stage 3 for him. Like I said, they were on a really good track. Just couldn't come away with the race win. The finish of that race we're gonna have to get into. But yeah, Sammy Smith was he was the lucky recipient of the Xfinity fastest lap, which gave him 1 point, but it didn't negate what ended up happening with the finish of the race. It was a really controversial finish. I know I saw several tweets out there, several things on social media. But before we get into those comments, I'm going to shift over here real quick, and we'll just watch the replay of the final lap here really quick. It actually ended up going into overtime. So this is the final restart. Like I said, we've got Sammy Smith and Taylor Gray right here fighting for the lead. They're pushing. Taylor Gray fighting on the inside, Sammy Smith on the outside, still holding strong, trying to side draft. White flag here. Like I said, incredibly tight racing. Taylor Gray fighting for a win. He had a really great night, really great race all night. And then here's where it was controversial. Sammy Smith sends it in, just absolutely takes out Taylor Gray. And here comes Austin Hill from 5th place coming to get the win. And you had a bunch of them wrecking on the front stretch and just causing chaos. Like I said, Sammy Smith just sent it in. I mean, this was very reminiscent of the Austin Dillon wreck, or the Austin Dillon incident at Richmond, which I was unfortunately there for last year, where, I mean, he's back there far enough to where, you don't have to send it in this hard, but he does anyway. He ends up taking out Taylor Gray, pushing him up. He then gets taken out by Justin Allgaier. Allgaier gets in there a little deep as well. He's not trying to. He wasn't trying to send it in there that deep, I don't think. I think he just got in there super hot. He misjudged it because his teammate misjudged it. And then you have Austin Hill, you see right here. He sneaks through somehow sneaks through, and he's able to come away with the win. But you'll see back behind here, everybody was wrecking on the front stretch. Just a mess. That race ended in a disaster. A lot of the Cup guys were saying that it was a disgrace. And, like I said, I saw Ray Evernham put out on the internet, he said, if this is the future of our sport, we're screwed. Which I kind of agree with him on. I mean, you can't... Tyler and I had talked about previously how you can have great races, great finishes, without a crash fest at the end. And I think that these guys have gotten to a point where they were sort of comfortable with doing that, but that can't be the way you end every race. I mean, it isn't the right way to go about things. It's not the right way to race. I know you can put the bumper to somebody and gently move them out of the way for the win, because, I mean, at a track like this, there's really no other way to do it. I mean, unless you have a super fast car and, things go in a different manner, but, there's no other way you can go about this with all these crashes and stuff. You have to be able to have respect for your fellow drivers. And, I know I saw a bunch of Cup drivers were not happy with the finish. Mark Martin kind of played into things a little bit. I know he has been on he's been on the internet as far as the is this racing? Is this entertainment? He just put out there, "Are you entertained?" Just 3 words. Or maybe it was, "Are you entertained yet?" or something. It was, "Are you entertained?" basically was his statement. And, there's like I said, there is racing and entertainment. You have to keep them separate. But at the same time, what happened, at the end of that race on Saturday night was completely unacceptable. NASCAR did end up docking Sammy Smith 50 points, 50 driver points, which, that 1 point may help him a little bit. He dropped, I believe, from 6th to 13th in driver points, which that's a massive hit. I know it's early on in the season again, but 50 points is 50 points. I mean, that's like a really great race day's worth of points right there. Like I said, Corey Heim in the trucks, he earned 52 points with a 6th place and 2 stage wins and the Xfinity fastest lap. So in order to make up for that, he's going to have to come back really hard, really strong, show that he can mature, because it was, I am looking forward to Sammy Smith run this year. Like, to me, that number 8 car, it being back, the aura of the 8 is back to me now. Like, I don't know. I don't want it to be tarnished by this incident, but, there was a $25,000 fine that was thrown in there too. So I think there was some sort of like, okay, come on, guys, we gotta quit doing this from NASCAR. And Taylor Gray was very confrontational at the Infield Care Center after the race. They didn't come to blows, but I honestly wouldn't have blamed Taylor Gray if he knocked Sammy Smith off his rocker, because that was dirty. I mean, going from battling for the win to, I believe he ended up finishing 24th, Taylor Gray did. So just a very rough way for Taylor Gray's night to end. Like I said, he had a great night, great race all night, and just for that to be the ending of the night for him was very, very demoralizing. But I will say, with that 54 car, keep an eye on him. He's going to be one to continue to watch this year. They've shown speed, which, in qualifying and in race, qualifying trim and in race, on race days, they've shown speed consistently. So I think it's only a matter of time, I think, for Taylor Gray to get his first Xfinity Series win. So, just like I said, I don't want to see that be, a cause for a downward spiral for Taylor Gray, because he doesn't deserve it. Like I said, he's got a chance. He's got a really good chance the next couple of weeks for sure to get a win. Like I said, I really hope he can do well. Sammy Smith, he's got to be better than that. Just unacceptable move. You can't drive it from 2 or 3 car lengths back and full send into the corner. It doesn't work that way. So, Sammy Smith, you got to be better. But also, unfortunately, that's short track racing. But yeah, no, it was interesting because that happened on Saturday night, and then bright and early Sunday morning, I ended up getting up and went to the race on Sunday, and it was actually a lot of fun. I didn't know what to expect going into the track. Like, I knew it was a short track. I'd never been to Martinsville before, so I was like, well, it's gonna be fun, especially after all of the nonsense that happened on Saturday night with the Xfinity Series. All these guys were like, I don't want to say, trying to be better, but they were trying to show that they were not going to stoop down to that level for a race win. But I mean, it's not even like it was necessary with the kind of car that Denny Hamlin had all day. Just incredible speed from that 11 car all day. He got mired back in traffic, but wasn't much that could be done. You just got to hope you hop ahead on pit road, and pit road was very crucial at Martinsville. Again, there's Denny Hamlin right there. He had his 11 against the world flag, which he took inspiration from Ohio State, because it's Ohio State versus the world. He's an Ohio State fan. His friends are Ohio State fans, so he feels as though it's him versus the world. But he got his first Martinsville win in, I believe it was 10 years, they said. So, good for him. Now, I don't know if it's because I was more aware of it, but that was probably the loudest in pre-race. It was probably the loudest boos I've ever heard for Denny Hamlin, and it's his home state. Now, I think Richmond is technically his home track, but even when I've been to a couple of Richmond races, he hasn't been booed that loudly. But he was booed fairly loudly, but no. So he ended up getting the win, and he also won stage 2. He just had a really, really fast car all afternoon. Joey Logano won stage 1. Unfortunately for Joey, he ended up getting caught up in an incident middle of the race where he got clipped and spun that unfortunately sent him to the back, and it just didn't end well for him. But Denny Hamlin, like I said, that speed that he had in his car all afternoon showed up. Like I said, he won stage 2. He actually had the fastest lap as well late in the run. Well, actually, it wasn't late in the run. It was right before the end of stage 2. But so they were running really, really quick lap times throughout the entire day. There was quite a bit of fall off as well, like I said, from the way that the track is set up, where it's, you have these softer tires. It wasn't quite like the Bristol thing that we saw last spring, where they were just shredding every 30 laps, but there was some noticeable difference. But I know there was still some talk of could we potentially have a softer option tire maybe. But the way that this tire worked, I think still lent itself pretty well. You could tell which cars had speed and which didn't throughout the runs and stuff. You could tell which drivers were preserving tires, and it really, really lent well to some of those guys, Christopher Bell. He had himself an incredible race as well. I mean, he's had a great season, but just being able to, he's one of those guys that's able to preserve tires, to be able to prolong your run. But yeah, Bubba Wallace did great as well. He ended up finishing third and had an incredible race. Like I said, he was a guy that didn't Martinsville is not his strongest track at all by any means. Short track racing is not necessarily his forte either, but he ended up showing up. He was running up towards the front all day, but again, the track, it definitely changed throughout the race, but it was pretty good racing. We had some drivers pissed off at each other after the race. I know late in the race, Tyler Reddick got into the back of Ty Gibbs and spun him, and Ty Gibbs basically said, "Keep me away from that guy," after the race, with some more colorful language that was thrown in there. But yeah, we had those two Ty Gibbs not too happy with Reddick, and then Chastain was apparently, Joey Logano was frustrated with Chastain. Supposedly, the way that Chastain ran him all day, I went back and tried to look, and there was a little bit of blocking, but it's short track racing. There's not much you can do. I think Joey was just frustrated because he knew he had a quick car, and because of the way that he got spun and he was a part of an incident earlier in the race, like midway through the race. He was kind of off cycle from everybody, so he was probably, I think he had like 20 or 25 lap fresher tires than everybody, and so he knew he had a quicker car. He just couldn't get around people, so he was burning his stuff up early, and he couldn't do anything with it. So that was kind of frustrating for him. But I think it was probably just because he knew he had a faster car. Yeah, it was it was what it was. We had SVG late in the race as well. He ended up going for a spin, losing his right rear tire. Not the way he wanted to have his day go. Like I said, he was not doing too bad for himself on a short track. But again, just not the results they wanted either. They ended up coming in 34th. Not very great at all. But we did have Burt Myers returned, Winston-Salem guy, Bowman Gray guy, coming in, doing some short track racing. He finished 36th. Got to see him run really well, but unfortunately some electrical issues for him. Speaking of electrical issues, we had multiple electrical issues for Penske cars, and I'll say Penske cars with some quotation marks because Josh Berry was included in that. He was actually the first of those Fords to have some issues. I believe it was a battery issue to begin with, and then something else kept happening, and I believe they replaced the battery twice on the Josh Berry car. But again, I'm not entirely sure what was going on with that, but I know Austin Cindric had some issues as well. That ended up causing him to finish 37th. He didn't have a great race either. But we had Casey Mears come back. He came back for a very good solid run. I was hoping he was going to finish. What was it? We said something no more than 10 laps down. I think he ended up 12 laps down, which not bad. I actually got to meet him pre-race with the we'll call it the internet tweet up, the Bob Pockrass tweet up pre-race and stuff, and he did allude to the fact that these cars drive very, very differently than what he's used to, but it's just going to take some getting used to. Prior to this race, Casey Mears was 11 starts shy of 500 career starts. So now he's at 490 career starts, and he's hoping to be able to drum up some interest from some sponsors to be able to hopefully get to that 500 career start mark, which would be really awesome to see for him. Again, he's great guy. He was asked, if he had a favorite team that he went to, or like a favorite, we'll call it a favorite team he was with, I guess. And he said not really. He said every time he showed up at a new team, they were always having like one of the worst years in their organization. I know when he said he took over Brian Vickers' spot at Hendrick, Vickers told him it's not everything you think it is. And it was interesting hearing him tell some stories, because he said, they were running some older chassis, and then he said something about when they started, obviously everybody in the garage kind of shares their own, or, within their, not everybody in the garage, but everybody on the team kind of shared information, especially so your teams can run together. And he was talking about how they basically had a couple of cars, and he said he wrecked one, I think, and then they basically built one just like Jimmy Johnson's car, just like that 48 car, and I believe he said it was either he sat on the pole or he ran really well with it the first race that they raced with it. So just to be able to hear some stories from a veteran like that, and again, coming back. It was his first race at Martinsville since 2016, I believe he said, or maybe it was 2018. But cool to meet him. Cool to see him try to get to this 500 career start mark. Not entirely sure when the next start is going to be for him. It's going to be with that. Probably going to be with that. What is it? Garage 66, I believe, is their new name now. Driving the number 66 car. But if you do see it, that will be him, and probably him. But it'll be good to see him. Like I said, try to get to that 500 career start mark. Just hope he can get some sponsorship to run it. And if he can get it this year, that would be great. If not, it's probably going to push into early next year. It's all going to depend on sponsorships for him, obviously. But good to see him back at the track. Just like some of these other drivers that are going to be racing in the next couple weeks as well, coming back. I know we're not quite to Rockingham yet, but I know we've got Casey Kane coming back into the fold again. There's rumors, and I don't know how true it is. Probably not very likely at all, but, Carl Edwards, possibly, I don't know. But getting a couple of these veteran guys back into the sport again, I know just the fact that Casey Kane and Casey Mears are both coming back to the sport. They're back in it. They're invested. Carl Edwards coming back as an analyst now. It will be really cool to see him back and invested in this sport again. I mean, I know I don't want to say he was not invested in the sport, because obviously he was away for so many years, Carl Edwards was, but now that he's coming back, it'll be really, really cool to see that. But yeah, it was a great weekend this weekend. Like I said, just the craziness with the Xfinity Series stuff. I know they've gotta chill out. They've got to learn to drive their stuff more manageably. But we do have some off the track news really quick. I alluded to the number 8 earlier, and that stylized 8 is back. Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens is challenging the trademark for the 8, not the stylized 8. The stylized 8 is still Dale Jr.'s thing. The trademark for that is not being challenged. It's, from my understanding, it's the old number 8 that Junior Motorsports used to have. I believe that is what Dale Jr. might give up the trademark claim to, so that way it's a little bit easier for Lamar Jackson. I don't know. I personally don't think they're very close, but in the eyes of trademark and all that sort of stuff, he's probably going to end up dropping the trademark rights for the old number 8 that they were running up until last season, and Lamar Jackson might end up getting that. I'm not entirely sure, but that's just my understanding of it. And then the other legal news, not related to the 2311 front row stuff. We do have some lawsuits being filed against team, which is different, because supposedly, Legacy Motor Club is, well, first of all, Legacy Motor Club is suing Rick Ware Racing. Apparently, Legacy is buying a charter, or wants to buy a charter, or had an agreement in place with Rick Ware to acquire a charter. And Rick Ware Racing was under the impression, I guess, from their point of view, that they had agreed to the transfer of the charter in 2027. So at the end of the 2026 season, and to start 2027, that's when Legacy Motor Club would acquire the charter. However, according to one side, Rick Ware Racing went to sign the charter, or sign the agreement, or whatever the case was, sign the paperwork, whatever, to sign the charter or, agree on the charter transfer whenever it was supposed to be. Supposedly, Legacy had changed it to the beginning of 2026 and not 2027. So, that's my understanding. Rick Ware Racing says that they had the understanding of 2027 and Legacy changed it to 2026. I'm not sure where that's going to stand, but that is more legal news going on for NASCAR, which, it's a wild time right now to be alive and be a NASCAR fan. With all these legal challenges going on right now, just absolutely insane. But we're gonna move on onto some more lighthearted stuff coming up this weekend. We've got Darlington coming up this weekend, and it's their throwback weekend. Well, a lot of teams are doing throwbacks this weekend. I know it's not the Southern 500, but a lot of teams are still doing the Southern 500 throwback or the throwback weekend stuff. We don't have trucks this weekend, but we do have Xfinity and we do have Cup Series. Like I said, we've got a lot of great throwback schemes going on this year. I know we've got Kyle Larson and the Frosted Flakes Terry Labonte car. He had the Corn Flakes last year, which looked really, really great. Just from the renderings alone, that and I guess the lone teaser picture I've seen of it, it looks great. Pun totally intended there with the Tony the Tiger thing. But then we've also got Josh Berry and his throwback as well. There is rumors that they could run it as well at Indy in the summer, so we'll see. That one looks sharp. We've got, if we go back to the Xfinity series, we've got Daniel Dye running an Adam Petty throwback, which is really awesome. We've got Jeremy Clements running a solid throwback as well. There's a lot of great throwbacks that are being run this weekend. Austin Cindric revealed about a month ago now, or several weeks ago now, he's running a Dale Senior throwback, which is it's that yellow and blue Wrangler looking scheme, which is really cool. Noah Gregson's got a throwback as well. The one that I'm kind of questioning is Chase Elliott's. It's, you got to go searching for it. It's one that's kind of a weird one-off throwback that if you don't know what it is, you'll just think it's another paint scheme for the week. But if we swing back to Carl Edwards real quick, Denny Hamlin's actually running a throwback to a Carl Edwards scheme, which is really cool. Ryan Blaney throwing back to his dad Dave. So we've got quite a bit of throwbacks coming this weekend, and I'll be looking forward to it. I unfortunately won't be at the Xfinity Series race on Saturday, but I will be at the race on Sunday, and I'm going to try to be there early. Hopefully get to, try to meet some of the alumni that are showing up, get a good look at things, and do the whole pre-race thing. But if you guys are there, let me know. I'd love to meet you guys, love to interact, and hopefully grow the show, grow the brand. But like I said, if you're there, let me know. But I would love to know any and all of your thoughts about what happened at Martinsville this past weekend. What's your thoughts on all the crazy, rough driving that's been going on, crash fest finishes and all that good stuff? But I'd love to know your thoughts on that. What you thought. Was the penalty on Sammy Smith enough? Should he have been suspended? I personally don't think so. I think the points and the monetary fine should speak for themselves. But I'd love to know your guys' thoughts and see what you guys think. But yeah, other than that, like I said, if you guys are coming to the race this week, let me know. But yeah, I'd love to know any and all of your thoughts regarding anything. So thank you guys for watching and tuning in. And we'll catch you guys in next week's episode.